To my YouTube channel Noha Narrative. Tonight you will hear the journey of a poor man. Tonight you will hear the journey of a poor American girl who had almost nothing except hope, courage, and one promise in her heart. It is a story about struggle, loyalty, success, and a love that stayed alive through the hardest year of life. This is a story of Teeny and Gary Grant, two people from different worlds, two hearts connected by one unforgettable promise, and one beautiful night that turned old pain into lasting happiness. The promise that waited for years. Tiffany was born in a quiet part of Portland. Her neighborhood was the kind of a place people passed quickly without looking twice. The buildings were old, the sidewalks were cracked, the small grocery store at the corner kept its lights on gate because many people in the era worked two jobs and came home after dark. Tiffany grew up in a teeny apartment with her mother. They did not have much, but her mother tried to fill the home with dignity, discipline, and warmth. Her mother, Linda, worked long shift cleaning office in downtown buildings. Every evening, she came home and tried feet and kind smile. She always told Tiffany one thing: money can leave, respect can leave, people can leave, but your character always with you. Tiffany remembered those words through every stage of her life. As a child, she was quiet but observant. She noticed the little things other people ignored. She noticed when the neighbors skipped meals. She noticed when a single mother downstairs carried softly after receiving bills in the mail. She noticed when children at school pretended not to be hungry. Tiffany learned very early that life was not equal for everyone. At school, she was bright and hardworking. Her notebooks were always neat. Her homework was always complete. She dreamed for a future that looked nothing like the streets she walked each day. Still, dreams not paid rent. Dreams did not pay medicine. Dreams did not fix the fear that sat her mother's eyes. At the end of every month, when Tiffany was 16, life became harder. Her mother got sick. It started with exhaustion, then pain, then hospital visits, build up. Tiffany began working part-time after school at a small bakery. She arranged bread, cleaned tables, and smiled at customers even when her heart felt heavy. She studied late into the night, then woke early up to help her mother. Then woke early to help her mother. On rainy afternoon, Tiffany just finished her bakery shift when she saw a black car parked across the street. It looked out of place in the neighborhoods. Clean, expensive, quiet. A young man sat inside, dressed simply but clearly from another world. He was watching the bakery window, not in frightening way, but with deep focus, as if he had discovered something important and did not want to close sight of it. Tiffany noticed him, then looked away and walked home. The next day, the same car was there again, and the next week, he returned it. He never acted rude, he never crossed a line, he never tried to impress someone. Sometimes he brought a coffee from the shop next door and sat on a bench. Sometimes he sat in a car. Sometimes he just looked through the bakery glass while Tiffany worked behind the counter. It was not obsession. It felt more like silent concern. One evening, as Tiffany looked the bakery door, she saw him standing by the sidewalk. He was tall, clean, and young with the quiet confidence of someone raised around success, but there was something gentle in his face. He did not look like a man who enjoyed showing power. He looked like someone who carried responsibility. Hey, he said softly, my name is Gary Grant. Tiffany held the bakery key tightly. Do I know you? He gave a smile. I don't know. The sound strange. It does. I can hear it because I saw you one day helping an elderly woman who do not have enough money for bread. You paid the rest billing, telling anyone. Tiffany looked at him with surprise. That was nothing. It was not nothing. She said nothing. He continued carefully. I know this may sound unusual, but I have been thinking about that moment ever since. People with real kindness are rare. Tiffany forward slightly. You have been watching my because I gave someone bread, he nodded, and because I think you are the kind of person who change lives, even when you have nothing. Tiffany did not know how to respond. No one had even spoken to her like that. He quickly added, I'm sorry if I made you unforgettable. That was not my goal. His tone was sincere and that mattered. Why you are telling me this now? Tiffany asked. Because I wanted to speak honestly instead of staying a stranger. The street was cold. Rainwater still rested in the crack of the road. Car passed in the distance, but in a small moment, the world seemed unusual still. Tiffany looked at him more carefully. What do you want from me? Nothing, Cary Grant said, at least in the way you might think. I just want to know. This was how it began. Two different words. Cary Grant came from a very different life. He was the son of a wealthy businessman in Seattle. His father owned investment firms, office building, and technology interests across several states. Cary Grant had average advantage a person could imagine: the best school, the best travel, the best opportunities. But privilege had also shown him something painful. Many people around him loved status more than truth. They respect money more than character. He had grown tired of foolish conversation and fake smiles. He had seen enough beautiful parties to know how empty some rooms could feel. He wanted to meet someone real, someone honest, someone who, as heart, had not been shaped by luxury. That was he saw in Tiffany. At first, Tiffany kept her distance. He did not trust rich men. He did not trust smooth word. She had seen too many promises break in poor neighborhoods, but Cary Grant did not push. He began visiting the bakery like an other customer. Someday he bought muffins he clearly did not need. Someday he left early so Tiffany could not feel pressure. Someday he just asked how mother was doing. He learned quickly that Tiffany valued respect over charm, so he chose honestly. He told her that his family was wealthy. He told her he was accepted to join his family business full time. He told her that most people around him treated like a competition. He admitted that meeting her had changed the way he viewed success. Tiffany listened, but she stayed careful. One night after closing time, they walked together for a few blocks. It was the first time she allowed it. The air was cool, and the straight lights reflected on wet pavement. Cary Grant asked, what do you want most in life? Tiffany answered without hesitation, peace for my mother, a safe home, a life where I do not have to count every dollar before sleeping. He nodded. Then she asked, what do you want most in life? He looked ahead and said, a reason to feel proud of life I was given. The answer stayed with her. Over the next few months, they built something quiet and meaningful. Cary Grant never made Tiffany feel small. Tiffany never treated Cary Grant like a valet. They talked about books, work, family, and dreams. He admired her discipline. She admired his humanity. One afternoon, he bought her a second business book and with notes in the margin. It was about leadership, decision making, and a smart growth. Tiffany laughed softly. You think I'm going to run a company one day? He looked at her seriously. Yes. She shook her head. I am trying to pay rent. You are made to more than survival, he said. No. He had overtold her so clarity. The fall, the rise, the fall before the rise. Life, however, did not slow down to let love bloom easily. Tiffany's mother got worse. Hospital visits became more frequent. Tiffany hours at a bakery increased because they needed money. School became harder to manage. At the same time, Cary Grant's father demanded that he return to Seattle and prepared to take a larger role in the family company. Cary Grant resisted at first. He tried to stay near Tiffany, but never pressure grew stronger. Meetings were arranged. Responsible build up. His mother made it clear, and then the future of a family named required Cary Grant full attention. Tiffany could see the strain in him. One evening, they sat on a bench outside the hospital. The city light glowed softly in the distance. Tiffany looked tired. Cary Grant looked torn. You should go. Tiffany said quietly. Howe turned to her. I don't want to leave. I know. Then do not ask me that. Then do not ask me to. She gave a small, sad smile. You have responsibilities and you do not matter less than those responsibilities. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed steady. I never said I matter less. I said you should go because life is asking you to. He looked away. Then Tiffany said something he never forget. Cary Grant. Some people come into your lives to save us in the moment. Some stay forever. I don't know what you have yet, because I know this. Meeting you changed something in me. He listened in silence. You don't me believe. I'm not meant to stay where I started. He said, that matters. He reached into the coat, picked and peeled out a silver. He reached into the coat, picked up and out slim silver pen. It was elegant but smile. It was elegant but simple. My grandfather gave me this pen when I turned 18. He said, he told me to use it only for decisions that shape my future. Tiffany looked at it. I want you to have it. I cannot take that. You can. He placed it gently in her hand. Use it when you sign your first major success. Her throat tightened. Then Tiffany took off a small bracelet made of blue thread and a tiny metal charm. It was warm from years of use. My mother made this when I was a child. She said she told me to keep it until I met someone whose heart made me feel same. Cary Grant looked at her emotion. She placed the bracelet in his hand. They were both quiet for a moment. Then Cary Grant said, promise me something. What? One day, when you build the life you deserve, find me. Tiffany's eyes filled with tears. He continued, and when the day comes, he will not speak like two people who lost each other. We will speak like two people who kept faith. Tiffany nodded slowly. I promise. He added, and I promise this. No matter what's happened, I will always believe in the version of that the world has not seen yet. That night, the hugged breath, a cold sky, and a Cary Grant left for settle the next morning. The air of fires, the next few years shaped Tiffany in way no school ever could. Her mother passed away 2 years later. That loss broke something inside her, but it was strength, something deeper. Grief forced her to stand completely on her own. For weeks, she moved through like a shadow. She worked, studied, slept, repeated, but one night, while cleaning old drawers, she found her silver pen. Cary Grant had given her alongside. It was the business too, with his notes. She sat on the floor and carried for a long time. Then she opened the book. In the margins, Cary Grant had written small thoughts beside certain pages. Discipline creates freedom. People underestimate quiet strength. Good leaders remember pain, never build success on a pride alone. The world felt alive again. They felt like a hand reaching across time. Tiffany made a choice that night. She would not let her life remain trapped in chaos. Tiffany made a choice that night. She would not let her life remain trapped in loss. She enrolled in community college classes focused on business and finance. She works morning at the bakery and evening at local office doing work paperwork. She saved every possible dollar. She studies business model, branding and clusters physiologically. She learned how people build value from simple ideas. She paid close attention to small neighborhoods business and noticed how many failed because they lacked system, visibility, and strategic planning. Eventually, she started helping local shops improve their sales in exchange for many fees. She created simple social media plan. She designed menu boards. She helped a Lord Broadmate. She helped a forest organize better delivery partnership. She worked from a second-hand laptop on a kitchen table in a tiny apartment. Slowly, her side work became a small clustering service. Then it became a real business. Tiffany had no investor, no fame, no famous network, no family fortune. She had a pain, discipline, observation, and a memory of someone who once saw greatness in her before she saw it herself. The first big turning point came when a struggling regional cafe chain hired her for a short-term strategy project. Their location was losing money. The cluster Their customer base was shrinking, their brand looked outdated. Tiffany studied every detail. She spent days there stories, watching customer behavior, interviewed staff, improved product, positioning, cut waste, changed layout, and built a fresh brand story around comfort, quality, and community. Within a year, sales rose sharply, her reputation suffered. Soon, small business became mid-sized brand. Mid-sized brand became investor asking for advice. Tiffany launched a growth film focused on reviewing overlooked business in working class communities. The mission, that mission came in, that mission came from her roots. She did not just want profit, she wanted transformation. But by age 30, Tiffany was no longer struggling to survive. She was building companies, buying real estate, building mentorship programs, and appearing in business magazine as one of the most surprising new entrepreneurs in a Pacific Northwest. People called her brilliant, but in private she kept but in private, she still kept an old silver pen in a wallet case, and she still remembered one promise. Cary Grant's still word, silent word. Cary Grant's silent word. When Tiffany was building her future, Cary Grant was living his own complicated journey. He had joined the family business and performed well, more than well. He was smart, composed, and strategic. He modernized part of the company, improved ethical standards, and expanded investment into sustainable development. Over time, he became one of the youngest successful executives in the company history. People admired him, investors trusted him, business leaders sought his opinion. Eventually, after a year of proving himself, he became a millionaire in his own right. Independent of his father's wealth, he built ventures under his own name. He led with integrity. He created scholarship funds. He treated to become the kind of man Tiffany would still respect if she ever saw him again. But success did not fill the quiet places in her. He dated occasionally, but nothing lasted. He met polished women from elite circles, but the conversation felt shallow. He attended elegant dinners, signed valuable deals, and appeared in magazines. Yet some part of him remained emotionally unfinished. At night, after meeting ended with city lights, diamond, he sometimes opened a drawer in his study and looked at the blue bracelets Tiffany had given him before years. Even stopped wearing it on certain private days. No one knew what it's made, not even his closest friend. His father once asked him during a holiday dinner, "Why do you always seem like you are waiting for something?" Cary Grant replied calmly, "Maybe I am." He never explained more. A name in the news. One morning, nearly 12 years after they had parted, Cary Grant was reviewing documents before a board meeting when an assistant placed a business magazine on his desk. "Thoughts this might interest you," she said. He barely looked at it first. He saw the cover, Tiffany Happier, the self-made entrepreneur reviewing unforgettable communities. His chest tightened. He picked up the magazine with both hands. There she was, older now, stronger, elegant, confident, still carrying the same depth in her eyes. The article described her rise from poverty, her intelligence, her leadership, her mission-driven success. It mentioned that she had become a multi-millionaire through business acquisition, community-driven growth, and bold strategy. He read every word. He read it twice. At the end, the article, one line held him still. Tiffany Harper says the foundation of her success came from someone who once believed in her before the world did. Cary Grant lowered the magazine slowly. He now, the same evening, closed another city. Tiffany stood in a cafe after everyone had left. Floor to ceiling windows reflect the light of settled below. She had moved for hard quarters. There, after expanding, she saw operating from a space that symbolized everything she once thought impossible. On her desk lay an invitation to a high-profile investment, and she had seen the guest list. One name had made her hand terrible. Cary Grant wealth. For a long time, she simply stared at a line. Then she opened a drawer and looked out her silver pen. She whispered, "I found you, the reunion." The event took place at a grand waterfront venue in the Seattle. It was elegant but restrained. Business leaders, founders, investors, and non-profit representatives filled the room. Glass walls reflected the water. Soft music played. Waiter moved quietly. Conversation rose and fell like careful waves. Tiffany arrived in a dark American gown, graceful and composed. She carried herself with claim authorities. People greeted her warmly. Cameras flashed. Journalists asked for comments. She answered with polite confidence. But none of that truly mattered to her that night. She was looking at for one face across the room. Cary Grant was speaking with two broad members. When he suddenly paused, he had seen her. For a second, the room disappeared. Tiffany turned toward him. 12 years of distance stood between them, yet neither looked away. Cary Grant excused himself softly and began walk toward her. Tiffany moved too. Their peace was mired, but their eyes carried the weight of everything unfinished. Then, when they finally stood face to face but smiled disbelief, Tiffany, he said, his voice was still the same. Cary Grant, she replied, for a moment, neither now, what to say next. Then he gave a small breath of wonder. You didn't it? She smiled more deeply. You believed it would? He looked at her, as if I trying to understand the airs written in her face. You look strong. She answered gently. I had to become strong. He nodded, understanding more than she said. They moved to a quieter terraces overlooking water. The noise of events softened behind them. Cold air touched the night, but neither seemed to notice it. Cary Grant looked at her carefully. I followed your work for the last few years. She laughed softly. Only the last few hours? He smiled. I only found out today. Tiffany leaned slightly against the railing. I know about the earlier. I saw your name in the articles over there, and I kept my promise tonight. The sentence hit him deeply. The sentence hit him deeply. He reached into the jacket pocket and pulled out the blue bracelet. Tiffany's eyes wandered. You kept it? She whispered. He nodded always. She opened the purse and took out the silver pen. His expression changed to quiet emotion. You kept it too. I used it, she said. The day I signed my first major acquisition. He looked at her with pride, so visible that Tiffany had to glance away for a moment. They talked for over an hour, not like strangers, making polite conversation, not like old lover demanding explanation. They spoke like two souls reconnected with truth. Tiffany told him about her mother, her grief, her studies, her first client, her fear, and the long climb upward. The Cary Grant told her about his family, pressure, his business path, the empathies of success without emotional peace, and the silent hope that one day he would see her again. At one point, Tiffany asked quietly, did you ever stop believing we would meet again? He answered without delay. No. The answer settled into her heart like warmth. Later in the evening, as Gus prepared to leave, Tiffany turned to him and said, there is something I want to ask. Anything? Do you remember the promise we made? His face softened. Every word. She took a slow breath, then came with me tonight. He looked at her, surprised but claim. She continued, not because I want to rush a train, not because I want to impress you. I want to show you what your faith built inside me. I want this night to belong to truth. He gave a small nod. I will come. The house on the hill. Tiffany drove them herself. They left the city lights behind and moved towards a quiet hillside neighborhood. The road grew clamor, trees lined the street. At last, they arrived at a beautiful home overlooking water and distant slide. It was not loud or falsy. It was warm, refined, and peaceful. Every detail reflected care rather than vanity. Cary Grant stepped inside and looked around slowly. The house held tasteful art, soft lighting, clean lines, and quiet elegance. Large windows faced the night. A piano rested in one corner. Fresh flowers sat on a table near the entry. Shelves were filled with books, journals, and framed photographs. One frame caught his attention. It showed Tiffany and her mother outside the old apartment building. Cary Grant stood before it for a moment. Tiffany walked beside him. I kept that where I can always see it. He nodded with respect. Then she took him through the home. She showed him the office where she built strategies late into the night. She showed him a foundation board listing scholarship recipients. She showed him the dealing room where she hosted women from underprivileged background for mentorship dinner. She showed him the guest room she used for mother escaping unsustainable situation through one of her sport program. Cary Grant looked at her with deep admiration. You did not just become rich, he said. You became meaningful. Her eyes warm. Part of that started with you. They moved to the terrace outside. The wind was soft. The city shimmered in the sunset. Tiffany had a small dinner prepared for them, simple and elegant, roasted vegetable, salmon, warm bread and tea, no dramatic performance, no servants standing near them, just two people and the piece of earned quiet. During dinner, Tiffany said, "Do you know what I feared most when I became successful? What? That success would turn into someone unrecognizable." Cary Grant listening. I was afraid I would lose the part of me that once stood in a bakery and cared about one old man who needed bread. He looked at her steadily. You never lost her. How can you be sure? Because I can see her in the way you speak, in the way he house feels, in what you choose to build. She smiled, but emotion rose in her eyes. Then she asked, "And you, what did wealth do you?" He answered honestly, "I thought me how easy it is to become surrounded and still feel alone." Her expression softened, but it always taught me discipline. He continued, "He taught me that money without character is just foolish emptiness." Tiffany lowered her gaze for a moment. You always had a way to saying the exact thing to person needed to her. He smiled only when the person mattered. The night deepened. Their conversation became more personal. They laughed about old bakery days. Cary Grant admitted he once about 6 muffins in a week just to find a reason to visit. Tiffany laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. You did that. Yes, you do not even like blue bakery muffins. I know. They laughed again. But between the laughter did something more powerful. Safety and familiarity, emotional return, the truth of the earth. Later she sat in a living room beside a quiet first fireplace. Soft amber light filled the room. No music played. The silence itself felt honest. Tiffany held the silver pen in her hand. "Cary Grant," she had gently, "there is something I need to tell you clearly." He returned toward her. There were years when life hurt so much that I almost gave up on the idea of happiness. I kept working. I kept building. People called me inspiring, but there were nights when I came home to success and still felt empty. He listened closely, and in those nights I would think about one thing: a young man standing outside a bakery saying something in me I could not yet see myself. His face changed the emotion. Tiffany continued, "I don't know love you became because Tiffany continued, "I do not love you because you became a millionaire. I do not love you because you waited in memory. I love you because your belief gave me strength when life was cruel." Cary Grant's eyes shone. He said quietly, "Tiffany, I never forget you. Not for one reason. Not through one day. Not through one year. I measured other connections against the peace I felt near you, and nothing come close." She looked at him fully now. He added, "I love the girl you were. I admire the woman you became. And tonight I feel that life has returned something I was never meant to lose." Tears slipped softly down Tiffany's face. Cary Grant moved closer, but not too quietly. He gave her peace to choose. She did. She reached for his hand. Their fingers closed together like something unfinished had finally completed itself. That moment did not need grand words. It needed honesty. Tiffany whispered, "This is the night I imagined for air, not because for luxury, not because of drama, because I wanted one night where peace finally won." Cary Grant raised her hand gently and kissed it, and peace is here, he said. They sat close for a long time, speaking in low voices, but the life they wanted now, not for the life behind them, the life ahead. The life with shared values, purpose, claim, and commitment. Tiffany told him she wanted a home full of warmth, not performance. Cary Grant told her he wanted love that felt honest and breakfast, not just beautiful attainment. Tiffany said she wanted to build more programs for girls from Tiffany said she wanted to build more programs for girls from poor communities. Cary Grant said she wanted to found them with her and sat beside her without ego. There were no longer dreams from a distance. They were building out loud. At last, Tiffany stood and led him to the piano in the corner. My mother used to say every home should hold one thing that reminds people to slow down. She said. She sat and played a simple melody, not perfect but tender. Cary Grant stood beside the piano, watching her with a kind of affection that had hurry in it. When he finished, he saw that was beautiful. It was unfinished. They play it again someday. She smiled. It will. She stepped closer and Tiffany looked up at him without fear, without confession, and without weight of the air between them. She leaned into him. Cary Grant wrapped his arms around her carefully, as if holding something precious that life had returned at last. Their embrace was long and deeply peaceful. Later, they stood by the terrace window, looking out the light below. Tiffany rested her head lightly against his shoulder. The house felt too quiet for night, she said. It was not feel that way again. Cary Grant replied, that night did not change their life through noise of reckless emotion. It changed their life through emotional truth, healing, and at the end of the long loneliness, it was the night old pain lost its power. It was the night promise became reality. It was the night happiness entered not like a storm but like sunrise, building a shared future. The next morning, sunlight filled Tiffany home with gentle gold. Their air felt fresh, peaceful, real. Tiffany woke early as she always did, but for the first time in a long time, her heart felt right in a new way. She walked into the kitchen and found Cary Grant making coffee. She looked up and smiled for a second. Neither spoke. The Tiffany smiled back, and both understood something simple and profound. This was not at the end of a romantic night. This was the beginning of a shared life. They ate breakfast slowly, no rush, no performance, just comfortable. They spoke about work, their schedule, their cities, their responsibilities, because real love must stand inside real life. Cary Grant said, I do not want us to protect this life a memory. I want us to live it. Tiffany nodded, so do I. They agreed to move carefully but seriously, not out of fear, out of respect. They had both built large lives, but they had always waited long enough to know what mattered. In the month they followed, they remained close. Cary Grant visited often. Tiffany did too. They met not only in elegant places, but in ordinary way. Walk by the water, quiet dinner, planning sessions for joining the late night conversation about childhood bonds and adult goals. The press eventually noticed their connection. Articles appeared. Some called them a power couple. Some called their story unusual. Some focus on the wealth, the headlines, and the success. But people close to them understood the truth better. This was not a story of a money meeting money. This was a story of two people who remembered each other through the changing wealth of life. Together, they launched a foundation for a young woman from low-income background who wanted to study business, technology, and leadership. Tiffany had led the mission design. Cary Grant expanded the founding and partnerships. They did not attach their name loudly to every act of giving. They wanted impact, not a pulse. One afternoon, Tiffany visited the old neighborhood where she saw a Cary Grant went with her. The bakery was gone, replaced by a renovated bookstore cafe. The old bench nearly had been replaced too, but the streets still carried memory. But the streets still carried memory. Daphne stood quietly. Cary Grant asked, "What are you thinking?" She looked around and said, "That pain can become purpose if someone survives it with hurt." He nodded. Then she smiled and added, and that one rich boy brought too many muffins. He lost months later under a clear evening sky. Cary Grant invented Tiffany to be a private rooftop garden in Seattle. Leathern clothing softly, flower moved in praise. The city stretched below them like a flat field of lights. Tiffany had a feeling before he spoke. Cary Grant stood before her with calm emotions, not dramatically slow. "I met you when life looked unfair to you," he said. "You still choose kindness. I watched you become the woman I always believed you could become. But more than that, I watched you stay true to your soul." Tiffany's eyes filled. He continued, "You are my respect, my peace, and my clear answer my heart has ever known." Then he looked out a ring. "Tiffany Harper, will you marry me and let us keep every promise life once trusted?" She smiled so rare. "Yes, yes, I will." When he placed the ring on her hand, Tiffany thought of her mother. She thought of a small apartment, the bakery, the rain, the hospital bench, the silver pen, the bracelet, the years of work, the lonely night, the magazines covers, the trace routine reunion, the house on the hill. Every chapter had led here, a life that meant something. Their wedding took place the following spring in a beautiful garden estate outside Seattle. It was elegant but deeply personal, no exclusive spectacle, no empty glamour. The guest list included business leader, close friends, scholarship recipient, bakery workers from Tiffany old life, and several families whose business Tiffany had helped save. One chair in the front row held a small framed photo of Tiffany's mother. During her words, Tiffany said, "You saw me when the world had not yet learned my name. You gave me belief, and that belief became part of my foundation." During his vows, Cary Grant said, "You taught me that the greatest thing of wealth is not inherited, it is built in the soul." There were the tears everywhere after marriage. They did not disappear into a private luxury. They kept building, giving and growing together. Their home became known among friends as a place of warmth and real conversation. Tiffany remained sharp in the business, but even stronger in purpose. Cary Grant continued leading major ventures, but he became even more centered after marriage. The loneliness that once followed him slow faded. Years later, they had a daughter that named her Grace. When Grace was old enough to ask how our parents met, Tiffany and Cary Grant would smile at each other first before telling the story. "We met when life looked very different," Tiffany would say. "When we made a promise," Cary Grant would add. Grace always asked, "Did you know you would end up together?" Tiffany would answer honestly, "We hoped." Cary Grant would say, "And sometimes hopes when protected becomes destiny." The meanings of the story. The story of Tiffany and Cary Grant was not powerful because one poor girl became rich. Many people chase wealth. Many people admire headlines. Many people measure life by what you can be counted. But the real beauty of their story was deeper. Tiffany became a millionaire. Yes, she built success from pain, loss, discipline, and courage. She proved their background does not have to define destiny. She proved that poverty can break many things, but it does not have a break vision. She proved that a girl man of forgotten neighborhoods can grow into a woman who changed cities. Cary Grant has already a millionaire, but the greatest role in her life was not his money, it was his belief. He looked at someone the world overlooked and chose to see her future. That kind of belief is rare. It can rescue a person from self-doubt. It can become fuel during lonely years. It can become the difference between surviving and rising. And then Tiffany found him again after fulfilling the promise. She did not bring him into a night of empty romance. She brought him into a moment of emotional truth. A moment where two people finally laid down air of waiting and picked up the happiness they had once feared might ever come. That was the night their lives changed. No because of luxury, no because of status, because of love returned to two hearts that had protected him with patience. Final closing message of the story is that so this is a story of Tiffany and Cary Grant, a poor girl who became a millionaire, a wealthy young man who believed into her before anyone else did, a promise made in hard times, a reunion after years of struggle, and one unforgettable night that turns distance, pain and silence into joy, peace and lasting love. Some people enter your life and leave a word, some enter your life and leave a lesson. Thank you so much. Some enter, some people enter your life and leave a wound. Some enter your life and leave a lesson, and some enter your life and leave a promise that waits for the right time to bloom. Tiffany and Cary Grant were proof that true belief can outline time, pain, and distance. And sometimes the person who first see your first become first part of your future you built. Thank you so much.